Alright. I've only screwed this up like 3 times because I keep messing up my gain staging, but let's see if this one finally works. Apologize if there's a bit of fuzz in the sound. Like I said, my gain staging's a little messed up and I've got to reroute my output back into the video recorder using this sketchy method, so hopefully it sounds okay. Alright, so I haven't really been working on my DAW skills in like, well, forever. It's been a long time since I've worked on this kind of stuff. When I was in school, I didn't focus on this as much as I did on some of the other things like the DIY electronics and some of the more crazy control stuff. But anyway, all that aside, I've been playing bass a lot lately. I started playing bass when I was playing with Nightblade, and right now we're doing their album and playing bass on it. And so I had been trying to get this awesome bass tone that I just couldn't. I didn't have the money to buy the gear that I wanted to get it, like for playing live, you know. There's a couple of specialty pedals I wanted were like 250 euros, and I was always kind of a shoegazy guy, especially with guitar. So when I started really getting into playing bass, it's a lot funner than I ever thought it was going to be. I didn't have, like, you know, gear fit for purpose, unless I brought my laptop along, which is, well, you'll see. So rather than trying, I got into kit building, but the problem with kit building is, or kit building PCB, like pedal building, DIY pedal stuff, is that they're always based on the same bloody circuits that have been around since like the 50s or 60s or a little bit later, right? So there's only so many bloody tube screamers or rats or muffs or memory man delays or orange squeezers you can build before it just gets really boring. So let's see. So this was a pedal that I really wanted. KMA Machines seem to have some pretty cool stuff. I haven't really been in the pedal buying, you know, mindset for a long time, but I really wanted this one, which is funny because it's a utility pedal, right? It does. It's like a multi-band mixer, really, more than anything. But the idea is that you get 2 loops that you split your signal into, and you put a low pass and a high pass on each of them, and then you process them differently with different pedals. So on the low pass side, you'll stick like a nice warm compressor, and you squish the shit out of it so that it'll never clip on you, and then all the lows will be nice and high, and it'll just get like the solid brick-shaped bottom end. And then on the high end, that's where you put your dirt, right? So that you can get like that gnarly metal distortion in the bass without completely losing the bass in the mix, because you got no low end, because it just compresses it like crazy when you, I mean, a distortion pedal is basically a compressor that does clipping. Someone go ahead and shoot me if you think that is not the correct, you know, way to go about describing it. But basically, if you've ever played a bass through a distortion pedal or a high gain pedal, distortion pedal, I mean, even like an overdrive pedal, like a tube screamer, you lose some definition on the bottom end the more you turn the gain up. So if you're playing metal and you want it to sound friggin' gnarly, you can't throw that stuff on the bottom end, or you lose the bass. And let's face it, the bass is what makes the guitar sound awesome in a mix. So this thing was like on my list, but it was too expensive. And then Electro Harmonics came out with this thing they called the Tri-Parallel Mixer, which is pretty cool. It's basically just a 3-channel mixer you put on your pedal board. So there's nothing that special about it, and it was also like half the price of the Tyler. But the EQs on it, I believe, are just tilt EQs, and if you want to do like a hard shelf low pass or high pass, you need like minus 24 dB kind of thing, or it's not really going to be like what you want, like that hard cutoff. And this is more like just sort of like the tone knob on a DS1, if I'm going to stick with the guitar distortion pedal kind of idea. So that one's kind of out. I don't know how much it was. I think it was like $137 US, which is, you know, not too bad. but still out of my budget at the moment. So I thought about this guy, TH Custom Effects. He's designed this circuit board that's also basically the same thing. It's a 2-channel mixer, but it would end up being at least as expensive as buying a pedal anyway, because I don't have all the components I need. I've got a lot of components for building circuits and that kind of thing, but I don't have the jacks and the specific switches for this because it's not a traditional distortion pedal, or sorry, guitar pedal. And it's just the PCB would cost a few bucks, but everything else, it would probably end up being at least $100. And you could select low pass or high pass down here, but you couldn't select what the cutoff or the crossover frequency was, and you couldn't set exactly how much it cut. And I think it was like 16 or 18 dB. So I didn't think this was probably going to work the way I wanted it to. So decided, let's do it in software, right? I'm running Cubase 6 because it's really hard to spend $400 on an upgrade when Reaper costs $60, but I'm not used to Reaper, so I'm comfortable in Cubase, even though I'm still relearning. So anyway, got my bass hooked up, and I thought I'd try and do this in software using some plugins and see if I can get the same kind of effect that guys are doing on their, like, with their Tylers or like with their crazy stereo Helix patches and stuff like that. So what I've got here is just my basic your basic bass. This is my bass DI, right? Nothing special. These are passive pickups, I think, with an active EQ, but everything's set at 12 o'clock except for the volume, which is dimed. So, let's see. Oh, okay, so there's the straight DI. Forgive my crap playing. Straight DI, nothing on it. Then what I'm going to do is I come in here and I put a low pass filter on it and I just slam it right off. I chose around 200 hertz. I don't know if that's the right frequency, if that should be where you would normally do this. I'm just playing around for now. I'll dial it in later. But now it sounds like that. No high end whatsoever. You know, like you rolled the tone knob off on your guitar. And then to add to that, I've got this compressor, which is up here, and I just picked a preset and, you know, moved the two dots as close together as possible to really squish it. I don't know if you can tell with the way I've got this audio recording set up, but it's in there. Okay, then looking at the high pass side here, I did the same thing. I put a really hard shelf on it right there, pointing at the screen so that you guys, as you can see what I'm pointing at. Using the mouse here, forgive me, it's late. I cut it off right at 200 hertz again, really hard. I don't know if you should have more crossover or not, or like I said, if 200 is the right number. I'll tweak and play with it, maybe do some reading, but that's where I've got it set. So if I turn on the EQ, the low end, the bottom end's totally gone, right? It doesn't even exist anymore. So then what I did was I added a distortion pedal to it, and I'm using Bias Effects 2 here. A couple weeks ago they were giving away free licenses for the standard version, so I've only got like 1 or 2 pedals in each category, but whatever. So I grabbed a distortion pedal here. It's got to be, what, 4 knobs, like a rat or something? Oh, 5, no, 6. Bass, mid, treble, and mid freak. Oh, this is probably more like a metal zone. Oh yeah. Metal zones are awesome. Don't let the hype turn you off. They're one of the wickedest pedals ever, if you use them right. It's got the mid Q on it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't think I touched any of it. I just loaded it up and let me turn that on. So now this is what you hear. No low end whatsoever. Nice and dirty, but it's kind of crisp, that it's not being muddy. And now what's left is to set it up like you would if you were doing it live, right? So, if I turn this down now, pre-fade sent into a bus. So the idea here is that if these two channels are acting like the pedal that splits it, and then each insert here is like a pedal on the loop before it comes back, and then when it sums and feeds back out, I just stick it in a bus, and this is where I've got my amp. This is a Gallien-Kruger like clone, what do you call it, a model in bias amp. I've got this software because I actually bought the amp. I wanted a modeler that was a little cheaper than like a Axe-Fx or a Kemper or something like that, and this thing works just fine for me. Been using it to play live. The hardware unit, the software is the same thing. So this is a Gallien-Kruger model instead of like an Ampeg or something. Just needed something that was a little more modern sounding, I guess. And now when you sum them all together and feed them into the front of the amp, then it sounds kind of like that. I think it sounds pretty awesome. It sounds nice and chunky and meaty if you really listen closely, assuming the audio doesn't completely suck. You get a lot of beef on the bottom end that isn't distorted, and it's nice and compressed and brick wall sounding, and then you got all that fuzz on the top that gives it like some bite on the top end. You don't lose your definition, but you also get that growly stuff. Anyway, I think it sounds alright. I think it needs to be tweaked, maybe not album ready or anything like that, but now that I've sort of done it myself and I hear what it does, what it sounds like, it doesn't, it's, I don't know, it sounds good. It's like rooted in reality for me now. I didn't just sort of watch a YouTube video and see somebody twist a bunch of magic knobs. Try it out. Bass is fun. Way funner than my egotistical guitar playing mind ever thought it was going to be. So, cheers. Have fun. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. Later.